A U.S. foundation is helping fight Ebola in West Africa. We'll talk to the man behind it. Stamping out Boko Haram from Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari seeks a way out of the terrorist scourge. And one doctor's mission to get Ugandan children much-needed treatment for heart diseases. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. First tonight, the political crisis in Burundi remains unresolved. Now the UN Special Envoy to the Great Lakes region has quit his role of facilitating talks between rival factions in the country's political crisis. Mr. Said Dinjit has hosted dialogue between the government and the ruling party, opposition parties and civil society groups to try to resolve a row over President Pierre Nkurunziza's bid for a third term, but there have been only limited signs of progress. And Dinjit has faced criticism from the opposition, who said he was biased towards the government, a charge he dismissed. He will, however, stay on as UN Special Envoy to the Great Lakes region. Well, meanwhile, the political crisis in Burundi has sent thousands of Burundians fleeing into neighboring Tanzania, where they live in squalid camps, battling with many challenges, including a cholera outbreak that has killed more than 30 people. VOS Edward Reimer visited the Nyarugusu camp in Tanzania and now joins us via Skype phone from Bujumbura. Eddie, welcome and welcome back from the camp itself. Tell us, what did you find there?
Thank you so much, Vincent. Yes, I came back yesterday from Nyarugusu camp in Kigoma, which is in western Tanzania, where hundreds of Burundians continue to flee into Tanzania. Most of them cite increased tension, intimidation, and threats in their nation related to the elections and the decision by the current president to seek another term in office. Yeah. In that camp alone, right now, reports that we got from the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, they said they're receiving between 300 to 500 Burundian refugees every single day. And as of yesterday, the total number of registered refugees in that camp was 53,000 in just a span of 2 months, Vincent.
Now, what do the refugees tell you is making them move and travel all the way from Burundi to Tanzania?
Couple of refugees I spoke to, mostly mothers, kids, husbands. They say that they fled because of Imbonerakure, which is a youth wing of the ruling party CNDD-FDD. They say that these Imbonerakure youth terrorize them, attack them at night. Sometimes they come to their houses with flashlights. So creating a sense of fear and intimidation that leads to these people deciding to flee so that they can save their lives. These are the stories that we got from those refugees. Some of them, however, we understood that some had actually returned back to Burundi after so many years in exile in Tanzania, but reaching Burundi, they found that most of their lands had been occupied or taken by other people, so they decided to leave the country and flee again to Tanzania, Vincent.
Well, and we know we're going to get more reports from you in the coming days. Thank you very much, Eddie, for joining us today. VOS Edward Reimer reporting live via phone, Skype phone from actually Bujumbura, where he has returned from, coming from Tanzania. Now, the United Nations, rather, let's move on now to Libya. The United Nations and major world powers are urging rival factions in Libya to accept a power sharing agreement and put an end to nearly 4 years of fighting terrorism and political turmoil. Following a meeting of UN diplomats and other top officials meeting in Berlin Wednesday, an architect of the peace proposal before Libya says the rival groups need to take real action soon.
The challenge is not only that they agree on this draft, but that they agree soon, that they agree, if possible, before or at the beginning of Ramadan.
Libyan rivals have rejected several proposals by the UN Special Envoy Bernardino Leon for a peaceful settlement. The migrant crisis appears to be a collateral byproduct of Libya's political instability. A spokesman for Tajura Joint Operation Room, a group trying to stop smugglers from shipping migrants out of Libya for Europe, complained about the lack of government support.
There should be more logistical and moral support from the government, and also there should be financial support. All of this was made with what little we have. The other thing is the United Nations on the migrant situation. There should be more support from local authorities in the country to fight this phenomenon.
Libya has been in chaos since longtime dictator Muammar Gaddafi was overthrown and killed in 2011. Islamic extremists seized the capital Tripoli last year and set up a rival government, forcing the internationally recognized government to flee to the east. While African migrants continue to make their perilous journey to Europe in hope of a better life, Italian authorities say in the last 2 days they have rescued about 500 migrants from the Mediterranean Sea, many of them young children. Now, a video filmed by the Italian Coast Guard showed very young children being transferred at sea from crammed migrant vessels onto ships that would take them to safety at Italian ports. Italy has been on the front lines of the Mediterranean migrant crisis. More than 50,000 people have arrived this year, mostly in overcrowded fishing boats and rubber dinghies. It has called repeatedly for more assistance from the European Union, but has so far made little headway in persuading other EU countries to take in more of the arrivals. Well, now, Nigeria's new president, Muhammadu Buhari, met his regional counterparts in Abuja on Thursday to set up a joint military force against Boko Haram. It is the latest sign of his intent to crush the Islamist militant group early in his tenure. The 72-year-old former military ruler, who was inaugurated just 2 weeks ago, invited the leaders of neighboring Chad, Niger, and Benin for the impromptu one-day summit in Abuja. The issue of terrorism is the subject of the annual Wole Soyinka lecture series being held Friday just outside Washington, D.C. For more about the lecture series, we are joined by Ifeanyi Onochie, President, National Association of Sea Dogs. Mr. Onochie, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you, Vincent.
Now, first, how about you tell us a little bit about Sea Dogs? What is this an association all about?
Thank you, Vincent. The National Association of Sea Dogs Pirates Confraternity, it can be best described as a civil society organization made up of professionals from all walks of life who are deeply committed to the attainment of a just society, rooted in the strict observance of the rule of law and all interventions they can make in every sphere of life to make living more palatable and improved for
that looks like it really fits into the fight and struggle to bring justice and the rule of law in northeastern Nigeria. The Wole Soyinka lecture series is focusing on this particular issue this year. Tell us, what is the approach? What is the purpose?
Well, this is the 18th in the series, and the theme is escalating fundamentalism, terrorism and insecurity in sub-Saharan Africa, economic development and the imperatives of building strong democratic institutions. It's been a melee or a disturbance that's been observed. Now, it's no longer localized in a particular region of the world. You find ISIS in Iraq and Syria, you find Al-Shabaab in Kenya and Somalia, and you have Boko Haram, not only in Nigeria, but you find it in parts of Cameroon, Niger, and Chad. So it's become kind of a global melee, which calls for concerted effort.
Now, you know, many times people say a lot of time in this world is spent talking. In this particular lecture series, what can be achieved through this kind of conversations? I mean, what hasn't been said up to this point?
Yes, there's no limit to the awareness one can create. And every platform that can be utilized must, in order to create the awareness and make the people become more aware of the need for a concerted effort to be made towards taking care of this particular disturbance. Because it's become so unfortunate that everyone living in their homes are insecure. They don't know what's going to happen the next minute. There are bombings everywhere. So it is important, and we're going to have the lecture delivered by former U.S. ambassador to Nigeria, Dr. Robin Sanders.
Yes, I know.
She's going to do justice to that theme. So.
Now, tell me, what do you think didn't work and the government of Mr. Goodluck Jonathan that could work this time under President Buhari?
Well, the mantra now, per se, in Nigeria is change. So I believe that what the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, failed to do is what we expect the newly inaugurated President Muhammad Buhari to do. And he started off by moving the command base of the military to the northeastern part of Nigeria, where we have this problem very prominent. Mm-hmm. So we hope that if such effort is made, but he needs to change tactics. This involves something more of intelligence, because when you're fighting insurgency, it's not the regular kind of warfare. It requires more of intelligence. Mm-hmm. So we expect more of that to come from the approach this time around, so that we can have a different result.
Thank you, and we hope that everybody will be paying attention, including the government in Abuja.
We believe that will.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Onochie.
Thank you, Vincent.
Well, Ifeanyi Onochie is the president of the National Association of Sea Dogs. Thanks for joining us. Now we want to take you to yet another story. In West Africa, the global health system is unable to handle another mass epidemic like the Ebola outbreak in West Africa. That's according to the medical charity Médecins Sans Frontières. MSF says that late and slow international response, the absence of solid leadership, as well as the lack of treatments and vaccines are a recurrent scenario in many of today's health emergencies and are not unique to the Ebola epidemic. As countries like Sierra Leone and Guinea continue to fight to attain Ebola-free status, a number of organizations are working to help them find the most effective treatment for Ebola. Among them is the Andrew J. Young Foundation. And for more on that effort, Ambassador Andrew Young, the chairman of the Andrew J. Young Foundation, joins us live from Atlanta, Georgia. Ambassador Young, welcome to Africa 54.
Well, very good. Glad to be with you.
Yes, it's been a while. Now, you have been so involved in so many things in Africa. Tell me how Ebola particularly kind of got your attention and kind of engaged you.
Well, if you'll excuse me for being very blunt about it, when the presidents of African states came to meet with President Obama, one of the doctors that came with the president of Senegal is a friend of mine, Dr. Badosa, and he has an organization, Prometra, Promotion of Medicine Traditionale. And I've been working with him for the last 10 years on trying to find the relevance of traditional healing and diagnostics to modern day problems. And so I asked him almost playfully, I said, what did you all used to do about Ebola before white folks got it? And he said, well, I don't know whether it was the same thing, but we have had our approaches. And I said, would you give me, he's very protective of the traditional knowledge. And he's a Western trained physician, but his grandparents were traditional healers. And I said, no, I don't want to know what they taught you at France. I want to know what your grandfather would have done.
Exactly.
And he said, well, there are certain herbs they used to use. I said, would you give me a box of those herbs? If you will ship them to me, I don't know what they were, but we shipped them to Morehouse Medical School, and they made an extract out of it. We sent that extract first to the Center for Disease Control, but they didn't have any live viruses at the Center for Disease Control, but they did at Fort Detrick, Maryland. So we sent the extract, and they sent us back 15 pages of medical data, which I can't understand.
Yeah. Now, Ambassador Young, were you surprised that while Ebola has been in this world for several decades, nobody really seemed to have been seriously making vaccines enough to deal with an epidemic?
Well, why would you make a vaccine if you have a society that will prevent it? See, I think the difference between Western thinking and African thinking, and I'm back and forth between, is that they will prevent the disease, and they will help the body to be strong enough to deal with the disease. What they found in Fort Detrick was that every time they put this extract in any of the viruses of Ebola that have been discovered anywhere in Africa, it had a stunting effect. And we've seen that time and time again. Now, if you go back and look and remember, Ebola only occurs as AIDS occurred after the famine in Ethiopia and Sudan and Uganda. Then all of a sudden in the Uganda, HIV emerges. It was after the Diamond Wars and where the blood diamond fights were going, where people stopped farming. People stopped eating their traditional diet. And I think that the best thing to do with all of these diseases is to make sure that, one, we can keep peace, but that we also realize the value of nutrition. And it's much easier, much less expensive to prevent a disease than it is to cure it.
Yeah. Now, Ambassador Yang, how close are we, and particularly with your effort and the mission in West Africa, how close are we to getting a vaccine that works, medicine that works?
I tell you, I worked with everybody on a vaccine to stop polio, because polio got out of hand all over the world. But I'm much more interested in nutrition. I think these diseases can be prevented by a healthy diet, rich in protein, and also the amino acids and...
but that's the prevention part, but how about the treatment part, when it really happens?
But I'm saying that the treatment part is a good diet. That if people had high-level nutrition, much of their problems would have been prevented. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have to cure it, but there are simple things. A group of African doctors here in Georgia suggested in Liberia that they add one capsule, adds selenium to the fluids that were going in. It cut the death rate at half.
Well, Ambassador.
Selenium, and when they ran out of selenium, the death rate went back up. So we got selenium off the shelves at Walmart, and you can buy it in any store, and it's very inexpensive. And so I err in the direction of good nutrition and clean water. I said to President Bush when he put the $15 billion out for AIDS, I said, we would be better off if we took $5 billion for clean water, $5 billion for agriculture, and $5 billion for antiretrovirals. And I still believe that that's the only approach. You can put all the money on cure, but you got to prevent it sometime.
Exactly. Ambassador Yang, thank you very much for joining us today, and I wish you well. I know you had an accident and you're recovering. Thanks a lot for being with us. Ambassador Andrew Yang, chairman of the Andrew J. Yang Foundation, speaking to us live from Atlanta, Georgia. We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we covered. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, an American cardiologist helps kids in need in Uganda. Stay with us.
How do you see the world?
I see countries in turmoil.
I see our planet changing.
I see people at peace.
No matter how you see the world, you'll get an unbiased and uncensored view of it on Voice of America. On television, radio, online, and mobile. In more than 40 languages all day, every day. Millions of people tune us in.
How do I see the world? On Voice of America.
Well, and joining us now is our Esther Giduyuwat with our health report today. Our health correspondent, Dino Mado, is out on a vacation. What do you have for us today, Esther?
Well, we head to the East African nation of Uganda, where American doctor is helping children with heart problems. Thousands of children in developing nations like Uganda are born with heart problems, and thousands more contract heart diseases in their youth. An American cardiologist has taken it upon himself to see that Ugandan children get the treatment they need. VOA's Mike Richmond has more on this doctor with a huge heart.
It's been a busy day for pediatric cardiologist Craig Sable at the Uganda Heart Institute at Malago National Referral Hospital in the capital, Kampala. He has examined a number of children with serious heart ailments and overseen medical procedures on them, like 4-year-old Victoria here.
She'll hopefully outlive us all. Take really good care of her and make sure she recovers okay.
This experience is nothing new for Sable, who has been leading medical missions here for more than a decade. Many Ugandan children are born with health defects such as holes in their heart, while others are stricken with rheumatic heart diseases in their youth. Sable selects patients for operations and serves as a consultant to American and Ugandan surgeons before, during, and after procedures. He has overseen about 500 open-heart surgeries on Ugandan children with a 95% survival rate, which, as he put it, is almost as good as it gets in the United States.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Okay?
I think it's probably a good idea.
So we put the needle in here, draw out. When you get fluid, you undo your needle. You take this wire, you put the wire in, like you're in the cath lab, okay? I think the most striking thing to me is when I walk into the waiting room and see 50 to 100 children who I know if they were here they would get fixed, and I know that we have a chance to help them.
Ugandan cardiologist Twalib Aliku has learned a lot from his American counterpart.
Basically, he started the program when we couldn't do any surgeries on our own, and we've reached this point where we are doing many surgeries on our own as a country. So, I mean, it's just tremendous what is done.
Sable says he will continue his efforts to modernize Uganda's pediatric cardiology system.
My hope is they can transition from being a fledgling program that does a few heart surgeries to become a model for the region and other parts of the developing world, that we can do meaningful research and innovative program implementation that other programs can copy, and they can go from being the helpers to the leaders.
The 52-year-old doctor still has time for his practice at the National Children's Medical Center in Washington, but he'll be heading off on his next mission to Uganda in July. Mike Richmond, VOA News, Washington.
Well, thanks a lot. And it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. Ever wondered what are the blockbuster movies this summer? Well, we'll be right back. Well, every summer, big Hollywood studios roll out big budget flicks rich in special effects and celebrity actors. Now, these blockbusters attract large audiences in multiplex and luxury movie theaters. Revenues from domestic and international ticket sales of this movie, Behemoth, reach up to billions of dollars. This summer is no exception. VOA's Penelope Pulu has more.
First came Jaws. 40 years ago, filmmaker Steven Spielberg scared summer vacationers with this suspenseful shark attack flick. Jaws grossed $500 million worldwide, making it the highest-grossing film of its time. The on-screen recipe of thrills and chills continues today. Avengers or San Andreas? The tsunami of ticket sales at home and abroad towers over the hundreds of millions it took to produce these action megaflicks. Shown in IMAX and 3D, extravaganzas like these are the offspring of big Hollywood studios and multiplex theaters. The theme, saving the world, is rather consistent.
Everybody down!
In San Andreas, a massive earthquake threatens the world, and action superstar Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson plays a rescue pilot battling against time to save his daughter. The exceptional 3D visuals make up for a mediocre script. In its opening weekend, San Andreas grossed over $50 million. Marvel's latest superhero flick, The Avengers: Age of Ultron, a $250 million production, has so far grossed over $1 billion worldwide. Disaster films can excite any audience, while top stars such as Robert Downey Jr., Scarlett Johansson, and Chris Hemsworth are bankable the world over. For the older crowd, Hollywood also invests heavily on productions that harken back to older film franchises. This summer, 14 years after Spielberg's last Jurassic Park installment, Jurassic World comes roaring back with a larger, fiercer T-Rex wreaking havoc. The film cost $150 million, and the revenues? The sky is the limit. Mature megastars, especially men, still hold a spell over moviegoers. Tom Cruise returns to Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation to take on, well, a rogue nation. The new MI5, as the film is abbreviated affectionately, is the fifth of the series and a sure international box office success. But wait.
I'll be back.
What? In Terminator Genesis, Arnold Schwarzenegger, soon to be 70, proves that he can still carry his weight and bring the masses to the theaters. These big movie stars capitalize on the 3D and IMAX film technologies to drive Hollywood's money-making engine. Penelope Pulu, VOA News, Washington.
Good night. And
through you, we become more informed. We can better perform because sometimes you are the critics. Sometimes you bring the info, allowing us to be critics. So it's you have become a part of our life, and we need you to continue growing.
Real talk, real issues. The Real Africa. It's time to get the scoop Monday through Friday on VOA. Find your time zone and get the scoop.
Cameras, they're everywhere, capturing everything from graduations to crime on the street. They're part of our everyday lives, raising questions of privacy and ethics. Voice of America and the Newseum Institute present a live town hall discussion, In the Public Eye, Police, Cameras, and the Constitution. Experts will examine how we interpret what we see and discuss the legal and moral ramifications. Join the conversation now at #InThePublicEye and join us live June 17th on VOA.